Major standoff between police and gunmen in East Kingston. A tense calm prevails over the area. Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on air and online at onespotmedia.com. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Also this evening, another fire at the retirement dump in St. James. And Agriculture Minister warns fisherfolk to earn more money by exporting live lobsters. There's also sports commentary and weather in this newscast, so stay tuned. The news in detail right after this break. Welcome back to Primetime News and a special welcome to viewers on onespotmedia.com. We begin with news that there's a tense calm in the Rockfort Mountain View area in East Kingston following a major standoff between the police and gunmen. Reports are that the East Kingston police were patrolling the area by foot when they were attacked by gunmen. The police high command had to deploy additional personnel to rescue the cops who were reportedly pinned down by the gunmen. There was also a major gun battle in the Jarrett Lane and Oliver Road areas for several hours. It's not known whether there are any fatalities or injuries. And the Police Federation has rejected government's latest wage offer. Chairman of the Federation, Corporal Arlene McBean, said the government responded to claims with minor adjustments.
Well, the government responded to us by sending, I would call it, minor adjustment. The minor adjustment, it was not really impressive as how we would expect it to be, but after analyzing the entire package, including the minor adjustment and the proposal that they sent in its entirety, the Central Committee of the Police Federation, we are definitely in shock. And we realize that this insultive package has really bring us to that point where we realize that law enforcement officers are not valued in this country. The rank and file population is very restive right now.
The Federation will be holding talks with delegates island-wide to discuss the way forward.
Well, when we meet with the delegates, based on what the delegates, whatever feedback comes from the delegates, whatever mandate the delegate gives to us, we will have to execute accordingly. We have done our in-depth analysis of the package, and we intend to engage our delegates and do some form of sensitization and show them what is happening and do our comparative analysis. We are simply asking for livable wage.
Another dump fire has led to citizens being exposed to more smoke and environmentalists fuming at the recurring problem. This time, it's the retirement dump in St. James that was on fire. The National Solid Waste Management Authority says the fire is under control, but that's no comfort for the Jamaica Environment Trust, which is demanding better from the government. Here's TVJ's Herman Green with that story.
The retirement dump in St. James on fire Saturday night, and up to Sunday evening, the smoke was still blanketing several communities. Tucker, Granville, and Pitt 4 are just some of the affected areas. NSWMA Executive Director Audley Gordon says his team, along with firefighters, have been battling the blaze since Saturday afternoon.
This was lit by people who actually live on the disposal site. In other words, what we have here is a case of arson.
But this explanation is inadequate for CEO of the Jamaica Environment Trust, JET, Susan Stanley, who is calling for the government to take action to prevent the frequent fires. In a release this morning, JET stated that the recurrent incidents at Retirement and Riverton point to the larger issue of inadequate management at Jamaica's licensed dumps. She went on to say that Retirement, Riverton, and the 5 other licensed dump sites suffer from decades of neglect. However, Mr. Gordon disagrees, insisting that this is not a reflection of neglect, but is a setback to all the work that his entity has been doing.
It's important that everybody appreciate that this is something that has taken us by surprise, because we had just finished some covering the other day and has done so much to bring the landfill back to some level of normalcy. And when this comes now, it just disrupts everything all over again. But we are not going to be daunted. We are going to keep working.
He says the fire is currently 70% under control and will be extinguished by morning. As for the persons who he says are responsible for setting the fire,
we will be moving decisively to move everybody who live on the disposal site off. And we will start that process tomorrow, where I'll be writing to the Commissioner of Police and the Chief of Staff of the Jamaica Defence Force to get their help to get the people off the disposal site.
Herman Green, TVJ News.
The construction of a building without approval was the center of controversy at the recent sitting of the Clarendon Municipal Corporation. But those constructing the building seemingly have a slightly different story. Details in this report. This is the building at the center of the controversy. The Roger Clark Food Court, which will also be a hotel and farmers conference center. It's being constructed in Clarendon by the Jamaica Agricultural Society JAS. But the Clarendon Municipal Corporation has not approved it and has issued a stop order.
Can't want to knock down the little man out shop out there when he put it up without being given permission. But you have somebody putting up two huge buildings, and we can't stop it.
Now, at a function in Clarendon last week, outgoing JAS President Norman Grant indicated that the project was announced 5 years ago and plans were initially submitted to the municipal corporation. But
recently, we have done a revised drawing that we have submitted to look at the Farmers Conference Center and the food court.
Over to you, Mr. Mayor.
We have been there, our team has been there, and they have served notices on JAS. The JAS has attended meetings here, and they submitted a plan.
A plan?
Yes, they submitted a plan, but it's not on the required papers and size, and so they are now putting it together to send back to us, but we are on top of it.
I am almost certain that that building is still continuing.
Still continuing. So we don't have no cojones.
Yeah.
So in light of the breaches, what's the corporation's plan? Even though the mayor said the situation is being dealt with, another councillor had this suggestion.
They are going to come to us for waiver of things. For them be sure. And I am going, whenever they come with it, I am going to move a resolution that based on what they are doing in regards to that building, then if we gotta come with it, hold on. If they can't abide, if they can't abide by what we are saying, then we are not going to tell them.
The Agriculture Minister is hoping to boost the income of fisherfolk by allowing them to export live lobsters to China. He was speaking at the recent sitting of the House of Representatives where the long-awaited fisheries bill was passed. As you hear in this report, the parliamentary opposition pointed out some issues with the bill, even though it had bipartisan support. A new and improved fisheries bill has been on the table for years. The aim is to manage and develop the fisheries sector to fit international standards and modern-day trends. For Dr. Christopher Tufton, fisherfolk encounter several hardships and the bill should help to improve their lives.
For example, Mr. Speaker, going further out as opposed to just fishing in the immediate environs of the coastline, which clearly limits their options, which is also unsustainable in terms of the fish replenishing itself, but also providing even bigger opportunities for export.
Speaking of exports, Agriculture Minister Audley Shaw wants the authorities to urgently review regulations governing the fisheries sector. He says updated regulations could allow fisherfolk to export live lobsters to China.
If we perfect the system of getting live lobsters exported to China, that the fisherfolk can earn between 2 and 3 times more.
And even though the opposition supported the new law, spokesman on finance Mark Golding took issue with some aspects of the fisheries bill. He pointed out that it makes provision for 3 bodies, a National Fisheries Authority, a National Fisheries Advisory Council, and an appeals tribunal.
So we have 3 new bodies being created by one bill. I think that this bucks the trend of where we're trying to go. in terms of the public sector transformation. And as I say, I suspect that if this bill wasn't so long in coming, perhaps the structure would be different.
It's left to be seen if the Senate will consider that issue when it meets to discuss the bill.
I think the time has come to look at consolidating the various appeal tribunal into some fit-for-purpose entity that can serve multiple purposes under statute.
In the meantime, the Agriculture Minister says the licensing regime will be more
brink of a shallow ditch. We carried out investigations. We were told that 6 persons were traveling in the vehicle. However, they were removed from the vehicle before the arrival of the brigade.
3 persons are still being treated for injuries, and the Orokabesa police are trying to locate 2 persons who fled the scene.
3 males and 3 females were traveling in the vehicle. However, 4 are at the Portmore Hospital and 2 are we are yet to find the locations of the other 2. At present, we are still carrying out a search to locate those other 2 persons, 2 males.
And there was also a fatal motor vehicle crash in Portland. Dead is 40-year-old Chadwick Buchanan, otherwise called Dirty Les. 4 persons were also injured. The crash reportedly happened about 9:30 last night along Allen Avenue in Port Antonio when 2 vehicles collided. An alleged eyewitness outlined what happened.
The cars coming and she have got that direction there, but because that car up there was coming so fast, it tipped and flip come over. So that coming car that coming up now, she's trying to come out of the way.
On the sidewalk.
Right, but it end up still lick her and flip back over.
And as we entered the bridge, I saw that car that turned upside down, past me. Maybe that car would have gone 100 miles an hour, but me not, and then afterward, me hear everything turn over.
More details are being provided on the British government's program to compensate Caribbean immigrants who were victims of the Windrush scandal. According to the British High Commissioner to Jamaica, the program goes beyond granting citizenship to migrants from Commonwealth countries. TVJ's Herman Green reports.
The Windrush scandal in the United Kingdom highlighted the plight of Commonwealth citizens in that territory who lost their jobs, were stripped of healthcare benefits, and faced deportation. The British High Commissioner to Jamaica, Asif Ahmad, believes the issue was not just about a procedural mistake or missing pieces of documentation.
It was a fundamental injustice. An injustice for which our Prime Minister apologized and which we are trying now to put right.
Ambassador Ahmad said the Windrush saga was discussed at a recent gathering of high commissioners and ambassadors in London. He said corrective measures are being done in 2 stages.
Firstly, it is not about us granting British citizenship. It is about giving people the right they always had. And this will be done free of charge.
The second phase focuses on compensation. This, he says, is taking some time.
If the government was in a rush, they could have put something together and sort of said, here's £20,000, go away. But I think we have to take into account a whole host of things, some of which you cannot actually even monetize. Weddings missed. What's the monetary value of that? A funeral missed. Families separated. People not being able to see their grandchildren. Well, we've been going around consulting, and when this consultation period is finished, a compensation package will be announced. I hope it is accepted, but I know it will be challenged.
In addition to correcting the past, Ambassador Ahmad says the discussions also raised a fundamental issue between politics and civil servants, which needs to be fixed.
Windrush asks us as civil servants a fundamental question. As we implemented the politician's will, did we lose sight of our values as civil servants? And that really was a fundamental challenge to us all. That how does the civil service work with an elected government, but then stand up when we need to stand up and say when something is fundamentally wrong.
Herman Green, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, the British High Commissioner also commented on issues with the local justice system. He criticized the lengthy delays in court as well as delays when judges are handing down their rulings.
Justice delayed is simply injustice. So, I cannot think how it is conscionable for a sitting judge to line up and collect his pension if he hasn't finished his work. Full stop.
Justice Minister Delroy Chuck has been underscoring the need to deliver timely justice. Chief Justice Brian Sykes has also urged judges to avoid adjournments during trials. The British High Commissioner acknowledged the structural changes that are being implemented.
Because the witnesses haven't turned up, the right dockets are not there. For endless reasons, things are delayed. Well, there are solutions to all of that. One of that is, I've seen it here, which is the mobile bus that will do many of the functions that a court would otherwise do. There's no reason for just an administrative part of the process to drag a prisoner halfway across the country only to hear 2 words and for him to go back again. And if just for that, you use up court time.
And still ahead in primetime news, the business review and international news. So please stay with us.
Primetime news brought to you.
Welcome back, and it's now time for the business review with Dashan Hendricks. He'll be looking at 100 years of Red Stripe and plans to move the company forward for another 100 years.
Red Stripe celebrating 100 years and putting things in place for another 100.
This is a huge milestone for us.
At the helm for this milestone, Mexican Ricardo Nuncio, tasked with leading the first few years of the next 100 years for Red Stripe. His celebration is about the staff and the customers who have kept the company going.
Yes, we've been through ups and downs, changes of ownership, changes of let's say, visions, but one thing remains, which is the pride of what we stand for, which is we stand for a brand that is really powerful.
Celebrations aside, Mr. Nuncio says he is positioning the company to grow. Red Stripe for him is a brand which represents possibilities. The beer itself was selected by its parent company, Heineken, to be among 9 international brands it will be pushing across the globe. Heineken boasts a portfolio of 250.
Yeah, so we have a portfolio of international brands. Of course, Heineken is the flagship brand of our mother company. But within that, we have other beers. For example, we have Lagunitas, which is a craft beer. We have a beer from Asia, which is called Tiger. We have another beer, which is Sol, coming from Mexico. And within those, we have Red Stripe from Jamaica. So it's really a great deal. It's a big honor to be part of that set of brands.
For Red Stripe, the push started on Friday with the launch of a new global campaign. For Mr. Nuncio, it is the start of exploiting the possibilities of the iconic Jamaican beer. The countries targeted are the UK, the US, and Canada.
What I really love about this campaign is that it is grounded in Jamaica. So we've been in this journey for more than a year, and it's taken a lot of time because at first we wanted to do a global campaign thinking of what Red Stripe represents in globally and then trying to fit it into Jamaica. And our new head of marketing said, guys, you're making it all wrong. It has to be grounded in Jamaica's insights. Jamaica is so powerful, and the insight is that Jamaica is the only small country, a small island that can make the entire world shake.
He said he will also be looking to shake Sweden, Germany, Australia, New Zealand, and the Caribbean region. To do that, the brewery has been improving. So far, millions have been spent to do so. The company hardly keeps pace with the demand for Red Stripe flavors. The international market is growing fast as well.
We're also looking in countries like Italy, Ireland is showing interest. The brand team just came back from a global conference where all the brands present their new material, and they have a list of countries that are interested in carrying Red Stripe. So we need to explore, it needs to make sense, but I think that the brand definitely is going to go to new markets next year.
Mr. Nuncio says the new line, dedicated only to serving the export market, produces enough to satisfy demand. But that is with the growth which is projected. If things turn out as expected, it will be 8 years before new capacity is needed. If things grow faster, then millions more will have to be spent sooner for more expansion. For the Business Review, I am Dashan Hendricks.